Hi, welcome back. It's lovely to have you here and be chatting again. My name's Lee and I live in Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. And I sit here and chat with you about things that I'm making. I've had a discombobulated start to my day, and so I thought I'd come and talk to you and recombobulate. I was supposed to go out this morning because this fellow is due to have his hair cut. And when I hopped in the car, it didn't go. Fortunately, I'm an AA member and they arrived within half an hour, and it turned out that my engine was just flooded. You don't think about that with chokeless cars, but anyway. So everything is back to normal now. The car is actually fine. And I let the dog groomer know that I wasn't coming and she's rebooked me for next week. So I'm having a cup of coffee. And like I say, recombobulating. This mug as you can probably tell was painted by me. I met some friends up in North Yorkshire who I catch up with now and again, some lovely friends, and we decided that on this particular catch-up day we would meet somewhere that was kind of in the middle, and we did some pottery painting. This is I did have an inspiration picture and this is not very much like it, because I quickly discovered that my inspiration picture required a lot more technical ability than I actually have. So I went off piste and just winged it. And I think the fun thing about it is that, you know, with those pottery painting places, you can just go and have fun and experiment and enjoy yourself. And I've made 2 mugs now. I'm not particularly precious about them. They're ones that I can take in the garden and not have to bother about too much. Yeah, it's just good fun trying out the colours and different techniques and things. So if you get a chance to give that a go, then go for it. The bottom, I think I did the bottom last, and I think that's actually the best bit, but I can't show it to you because I have coffee in my mug. Maybe I'll get to the bottom of it by the time I've finished recording. We'll see. Marshall's just decided to go and look for his ball. He thinks that I'm sitting on the floor, so this must be playtime. You're wrong. It's not playtime. He's probably quite glad he doesn't have to go for a ride in the car, because he doesn't enjoy riding in the car. Anyway, somebody asked me a question in the comments last time about allotment gardens. We just call them allotments here in the UK, United Kingdom. And I think, oh, I've forgotten your name, I'm so sorry, but I did read your comment and you were asking about community gardens and things like that. So if you're not familiar with allotments, in the United Kingdom there's a long history of plots of land being set aside for labouring and working class people to grow food on. It goes back for centuries. You know, where a piece of land would be allocated to a household for them to grow the food that they need. And sort of at the beginning of the 20th century, there was more of a policy towards setting aside land for allotments and more formalising and standardising that system. And what it is it's a plot of land that you actually rent for your household, and often they're owned by councils. Sometimes it's land that's been privately owned and donated. There was a movement to sort of standardise the size of allotments and that sort of thing. I think it comes on the back of the fact that a lot of working class housing wasn't on big plots of land here. So the hairy man, who is my ex, and I used to live in a 2 up 2 down terrace, which at one point would have been a family home. It's just 2 rooms on top of each other. That's why they call it 2 up, 2 down. But the plot of land that that house was on was smaller than my allotment. It was really only, the back gardens were really only big enough to do your laundry and maybe have a privy in. A toilet. An outside toilet. So councils and, you know, landowners would put aside plots of land that you can rent to grow your own food, and there's different allotments have different rules about what you're allowed to do. So for example, on the allotment that I used to have, we were allowed to keep chickens and hens and poultry, but there were rules about how big your shed was allowed to be and fencing and that sort of thing. People have their allotments for really long times, like for decades. They'll rent them for decades, and the price can vary a lot. I think down in central London they can be sort of like hundreds of pounds a year. Mine was £30 a year, but there were some allotments nearby to us that were only £7 a year, so it varies quite a lot depending on where you live and what their restrictions are. And my allotment plot was about 10 metres by 30 metres, and that tends to be a fairly standard sort of a size. You can get half plots now and even quarter plots because people obviously have different time restraints, and it's just much more easy to get food now, so you don't necessarily have to grow what you need for your household. So briefly, if you want to look up more about it, then yeah, there's plenty of information online. I may have just told you something slightly inaccurate. That's just what I understand about allotments and my experience. So it's different from a community garden where, you know, you would usually rent a plot for your household, and sometimes people share them and, you know, get together with friends, and sometimes they just like to have their own plot and do their own thing. We were allowed to put up polytunnels and greenhouses on our plots, and actually my friend and I ended up with 1.5 plots, which was quite a lot. And as it turns out, as I said last time, I've moved into a house that has quite a big garden, and so I'm going to focus on my garden now. Anyway, on to knitting. The chat I had with you last week turned out to be really useful. So after we spoke last time, I sat here and I actually looked through the pattern for the cardigan that I was about to rip out. Let me find it here and remind myself what it's actually called. Nope. So, I had been knitting the Lieve Milena by Joanna Ang, and just as a recap, I decided to undo it and reclaim the yarn and knit both at 5 so that I could knit from the top down and just carry on until I ran out of yarn. Well, when I came to actually do that, I got the pattern out with all my scribblings on it from last time, and I was looking at the instructions to knit the back, because if you remember, it was knitted from the hem up and then over the shoulders and down, and so it was going to be a little more difficult to adjust the length. But when I actually had a look at the instructions for the back of the cardigan, I realised how easy it would be to start that from the top and knit down. I didn't even have to like write notes or do any calculations. So I pulled out the cardigan to start again, and some of you suggested some other ways of going about that. You know, I could have cut it off and kitchen stitched and all manner of other things. But I did want to go down a needle size just to tighten up the gauge a little bit, because I didn't like the fabric. The fabric felt a bit loose to me. And then I just started with a provisional cast on there and did the short rows, basically the reverse of what was written in the pattern, and then just started knitting down. I've used up a whole ball of yarn now, and so I'm going to start the front up and over the shoulders, and carry on with that pattern. And I'm really pleased about that, because I do like this design a lot, and I realised how much I did like that pretty lace front that this pattern has. And also I think that the Beaufort 5 was actually going to be incredibly dull because it's an all over one pattern, whereas this has different things. If I decide that I just want to do some meditative knitting, I can carry on with the back of the cardigan and I can do the sleeves, and when I want to do something interesting and exciting, I can do the pattern down the front. So I'm going to do that. I think this will actually be funner to knit. This is going to be much more fun and interesting to knit, and I'm much more excited about the garment as well. I think Beaufort 5 would have been a really nice standard cardigan and would have looked smart and all of that sort of thing, but this has a bit of exciting detail on it. Yeah, so having a little coffee after I chatted to you and just pondering the pattern was really worthwhile. And so I have undone the bit that I had already done, and part of the reason I did that is because, you know, I had been knitting on this 2 years ago, and in the meantime your gauge can change, you forget stuff, things happen. So I undid that cardigan while I was chatting with a friend last week, and I've washed the yarn. It feels lovely. I'm going to get out my ball winder and turn it back into some nice cakes and start working on the front of my cardigan. So yeah, and that's pretty much all I've done this week. Today was supposed to, well, it is a day. I've got some chores, a day of chores. I've got things to do. I'm just going to potter around the house, and now that I've let the dog groomer know that we're not turning up and I don't have to race over the wolds to another town and do that, I guess I can just meander around my house doing bits and pieces today in a very chilled out, relaxed day. And actually it's been really lovely to sit down and have a chat to you, because I do feel less flustered now. I think sometimes things, you know, life throws a bit of a spanner in the works, and sometimes you just need to sit down and calm down a bit. So yeah, it's been lovely. It's been so nice to be back and having a chat with you. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you did, like and subscribe, and I shall see you again soon. Cheerio.